From the phenomenal remakes of Resident Evil 4 and Dead Space to indie darlings like Dredge and Sons of the Forest to genre-pushing masterpieces like Alan Wake 2, there has never been a better time to be a fan of horror games, and there are plenty more coming over the horizon. Oh god, there's so many of them, so let's try and calm down and have a chat about them today. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 8 upcoming 2024 horror games you are not ready for. Number 8. By Sweet Carole. Coming from the mind of Chris Darrell, the creator behind the Remothered series, By Sweet Carole is a gorgeously animated 2D horror game that's expected to launch at a later point in 2024. Inspired by classic animated movies, this title sees players take control of Lana Benton, a young woman who's staying at Bunny Hall Orphanage. When her friend, the eponymous Carol, goes missing, Lana takes it upon herself to find out what really happened to her, with the ensuing investigation leading her to the Kingdom of Carola, a fantastical and dark land that's terrorized by sinister creatures. Along the way, players will need to utilize Lana's ability to transform into a rabbit to overcome some of the obstacles that lie in her path. Alongside its intriguing synopsis, the most appealing part of the game is its incredible art style. The pre-alpha gameplay that's been shown looks kind of like a classic Disney film brought to life. The characters are expressive, the soundtrack is packed with grand orchestral strings, and the environments are dripping with atmosphere. Complete with some effective jump scares and a menacing villain who pursues Lana after making a harrowing appearance, By Sweet Carole takes the traumatizing parts of beloved family classics and distills them into one promising-looking horror game. Number 7. Full Fathom. Now, underwater horror is a special kind of terrifying. Whether it's the oppressive environments of Bioshock or Soma, or the subaquatic horrors of Subnautica, these games illustrate the many reasons why players should be afraid of the dark depths of the ocean. Another game which is set to tap into this fear is Full Fathom, which is scheduled to release in Q3 of 2024. A survivalist horror game from small indie studio Demon House, Full Fathom puts players in a derelict submarine that's adrift in the middle of a vast ocean and tasks them with finding their way back to civilization. With the submarine being the player's only lifeline, maintaining and repairing the vehicle's systems is their only means of survival. To do so, players must venture outside of the confines of their sub and into the murky void of a flooded city to scavenge for food and supplies. But with the ocean's inhabitants being anything but friendly, leaving the relative safety of the submarine comes with great danger. Capturing the disquieting isolation and claustrophobia of the submarine alongside the tranquil beauty and unknowable terror of the expansive waters, this game will likely make players think twice about going anywhere near the ocean after submerging themselves in Full Fathom. Number 6. Little Nightmares 3. With its monstrously creepy character designs, unsettling atmosphere, and ominous world building, the Little Nightmares games have become firm fan favourites. Following the critical success of the first 2 main installments, Little Nightmares 3 is set to launch later this year. Featuring brand new characters Alone and Low, this game follows the pair as they work together to escape from the twisted place that they find themselves in. Like Mono and Six from the previous game, these new characters will have to cooperate to solve puzzles and defeat enemies by using their own unique abilities. In the extended gameplay trailer, the protagonists make their way through a crumbling sand-covered city known as the Necropolis, where they narrowly avoid being detected by a gigantic toddler dubbed Monster Baby in the trailer's description. It looks like more of what made the series work so well, and that is great news for fans. Not only is this the first game in the series developed solely by Dark Anthology's creator Supermassive Games, but this is also the first time that players will be able to play together cooperatively online, meaning that nobody is required to face these horrors alone. But still, something tells me that I'm still not ready for it. Number 5. Zoochosis. At first glance, Zoochosis, an indie horror game from developers Clapperheads, looks like a pleasant zoo simulator. Playing as a zookeeper on their first night on the job, players will interact with the zoo's varied menagerie of adorable animals by preparing meals for them and cleaning up the enclosures. But as enjoyable as hanging out with penguins and kangaroos may sound, this is still a horror game, and therefore it won't be long before things start to go terribly wrong. It turns out that the animals in the zoo are infected with an unknown virus that transforms them into mutated creatures that resemble something from a Cronenberg film, with the spider-like giraffes featured in the game's trailer bound to turn anyone into a giraffophobe, an arachnophobe, I don't even know what this thing is. In addition to caring for the animals, players must also investigate the facility to discover the mysteries behind the virus, and then develop a vaccine to cure the creatures. However, player choice is set to play a significant role in this game. Not only will the decisions made affect which animals players save, but they will also determine which of the many games endings that they will get. Expect this to release in Q2 of 2024. Number 4. Janet DeMora is a slumlord and a witch. Whether it's this Spencer mansion from Resident Evil, the haunted family home in Visage, or Alone in the Dark's gothic manor, creepy houses are a cornerstone of the horror genre. Upcoming indie title Janet DeMora is a slumlord and a witch is nothing like what players have experienced before. Helmed by developers Fuzzy Ghost, a two-person team of Scott Ford and Pete Foley from Sydney, Australia, the main horror in this game is the terrors of renting. But it's more than black mold and creaking floorboards that the group of tenants need to worry about, as their landlord is a literal witch whose sinister presence terrorizes players as they explore the house. Part horror comedy, part escape room, and part classic survival horror, players must solve a variety of puzzles to escape from this labyrinthine nightmare home that is barely held together with magic and discover more about who their witchy landlord actually is. Moreover, the developers have stated that a big part of their game is about finding a queer family, meaning that players can expect to find plenty of heartfelt moments amongst the strangeness. Players can experience this unique horror when it releases later in 2024. Number 3. Slitterhead. While there are multiple Silent Hill projects scheduled for release this year, there's another horror game coming out in the not-so-distant future that fans of the classic survival horror franchise should be very excited about, and that game is Slitterhead. First announced at the 2021 Game Awards, this upcoming title is headed by Silent Hill and Forbidden Siren creator Kichiro Toyama, and features a soundtrack from Silent Hill composer Akira Yamaka. While there's little known about what to expect from the full game, the involvement of these horror legends can only mean wonderful things. What is known about this game from the trailer is that it looks fantastically grotesque in the best way possible. Set in a world where parasites turn human hosts into horrifically twisted creatures that make the Silent Hill monsters look tame by comparison, the teaser gives players a glimpse at the carnage that's in store. Number 2. Paranormal Tales. Although there hasn't been much shown of found footage game Paranormal Tales since it was first announced in 2022, the little that has been revealed is bloody terrifying. Developed by UK-based studio Digital Cyber Cherries and heavily inspired by PT, this game serves as a horror anthology in which players play through a collection of nerve-wracking self-contained scenarios that depict the horrors which happen to the unfortunate individuals recording the videos. And going by the demonic woman in the trailer, the enemies in this game are going to be immensely frightening. Making this game even scarier is that it's built in Unreal Engine 5, which gives everything that hyper-realistic look. Video game forests have never looked as menacing as the one featured in this game's anxiety-inducing trailer. Likewise, the game promises to feature accurate visual and auditory effects to make the experience even more immersive. Although there's no concrete release date for Paranormal Tales, this game is anticipated to arrive on PC at some point in 2024. And number 1, horses. Whether it's Inscription, Doki Doki Literature Club, or Layers of Fear, there's a collection of wonderfully strange horror games that experiment with what the genre is capable of. None of these, however, are as boundary-pushing as Horses, a black and white fever dream of a title that is written and directed by Andrea Luco Bolera. This indie title sees players take on the role of a farmhand who's spending the next 2 weeks working for somebody who runs a creepy and mysterious farm. But more disturbing than the farmer's appearance, though, is that the titular horses he keeps are naked humans in horse masks, whose players will be able to ride and take care of throughout the game. If players decide to defy the farmer's sinister orders and investigate the farm's secrets, they'll need to prepare themselves to face the consequences. Combining unsettling live action video with twisted moments of gameplay, Horses is best described as an experimental art house film that doesn't hold anything back. Featuring depictions of psychological and sexual violence, mutilation, slavery, and torture, this game isn't for the faint of heart. Horses is the most unique and definitely most grotesque game that's scheduled for release later this year. And I bet my editor is pulling their hair out trying to figure out how to get footage of this onto YouTube.